Hello, friends. This is Adil Rizvi, and I welcome you all to this weekly live webinar on the 12th of November. And today's topic is about every property buyer. It relates to all the property buyers out there, whether they are property investors or they're looking to buy their family home. It relates to all of them. So I welcome you tonight. Please feel free to ask questions, post them in the comment section, whether you're watching on YouTube or on LinkedIn or Facebook, because we are going live on multiple platforms. If you're watching us, please drop in with a hello, say hi, let us know that you are there, and please give us your feedback. And also, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel because we bring a lot of good content which helps you in your purchasing journey moving forward. So give us a thumbs up, let us know you are here. Go ahead with your questions as well. And myself, I'm Adil Rizvi, and today's topic again would be about the property buyer mistakes that they do and how they can avoid it. If you want to get in touch with myself to discuss your personal situation, feel free to scan the QR code which is coming up on the screen right now. And let me bring it up. So, yep, I think that's the better view. So feel free to scan the QR code and book in a call if you want to discuss your personal situation with me, and if it is something confidential. But yes, if you're watching the recording, please let us know. Leave us your questions. We would love to answer them because we do these sessions only for you, only for your benefit, right? So before we move on and talk about the top 5 mistakes that property buyers actually do commit and how you can avoid them, the usual disclaimer. And any information we present today in this webinar is purely generic in nature. It does not form any kind of financial, legal, or tax advice. Please make sure to seek your independent professional advice before deciding to act on any information which is being discussed or presented today, because we have not considered your personal situation when we share those particular examples with you, so they may or may not apply to you. So that's it with the financial and the disclaimer, the legal disclaimer. And I will now be talking about the 5 key property mistakes that the property buyers actually commit. And at any point, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them here. My team will pass those questions to myself, and I would be answering them as we go along. So one of the biggest question I get, and one of the biggest problem that I see with the property buyers, is the lack of strategy. And what I mean by that is, a lot of buyers will come to me and they will be like, oh, I want to buy this property, whether it's for living purposes or for investment purposes, and they just don't know how they want to start. So one of the biggest problem they are facing is they don't know what their cash flow looks like, right? They don't know, potentially they only have an idea about their repayments, but where they really struggle is to identify what kind of other liabilities they will have on the property. Because remember, once you buy a property asset, it's a long-term commitment, and it's just not the mortgage that you have to pay back to the bank. It's also other expenses that come tied along with the property. It has the council rates, it has property insurance, it has property management fee, it has ongoing maintenance here and there. So you need to account for that as well. So all these expenses actually affect and directly impact your cash flow as well. So a lot of people don't even consider that. They think it's a good property, it's returning really high rental income, so I should let's just jump into it, right? Some of the properties like Airbnb kind of stuff, yes, they have really good rental incomes, but the management fee that some of those Airbnb property management companies would charge you would be anywhere from like 15% to 18%. In one case, I heard it was 21% as well. So imagine the amount of profits that is being sucked by these companies, and your cash flow is not as desirable or as attractive that you initially think. So that's why your cash flow is a very important part of your strategy. The other thing is, your strategy has to be based on diversification. What I mean by diversification is trying to buy everything where you live, especially when it comes to investment, doesn't really work, because one thing, it will trigger the land tax component very quickly, and you will start paying land tax much sooner rather than later. Apart from that, if you diversify your portfolio, if you have your properties in different states, you can enjoy multiple property growth cycles. Now, we know that looking at the data, not every state grows at the same rate at the same time. Sydney right now, like 40% of the suburbs have actually lost some of their value. Some of those good suburbs like Lewisham, some inner west suburbs, even Bondi, they have actually lost some of their value in the last 6 months. And that doesn't mean they are bad places, but what it shows is that they are not probably the best places for you to consider right now. Some of the other areas of Sydney have been growing in value at the same time. So essentially, when you're looking to buy somewhere, you have to make sure that you can maximize your investment potential and you maximize your equity growth potential. And for that reason, you have to make sure that you are buying when the whole state is in a growth cycle. When a state is in a growth cycle, most of the suburbs are growing in value. Currently, New South Wales is not in a growth cycle. So yes, some suburbs will perform well in New South Wales, including Sydney, but some of the others will not be performing well. And I'm talking that based on a lot of data analysis and data extrapolation, right? So be careful with that. Once you buy everything in a particular state, once the state goes into a growth cycle, yes, your properties will do really well. They will potentially grow by 8, 10, 12% every year, maybe more. But once once the cycle finishes after 2, 3, 4 years, and it becomes kind of a stagnant, that is when you will not have much growth in the forthcoming 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And that is why if you have one asset in Brisbane, one in South Australia, in Perth, if you can afford to do that, that is a much more balanced strategy to go with, along with a good cash flow. So in a strategy, cash flow was one thing. Other thing was being diversified so that you can avoid land tax and you can also enjoy the property growth across different markets. I would like to give some example around cash flow about Adelaide. Now, when we were buying in Adelaide for our clients back in 21 and 22, we were buying properties for 420, 430 grand, which was returning a rental of 530, 540 per week. I'm talking about Parafield Gardens, I'm talking about Salisbury Heights, all those suburbs, right? We bought a lot of properties over there. Now, 3 years later, those same properties, their rents have gone up, let's say from 530, 540, their rents have gone up to, let's say, 650 a week now. But the property prices have gone from 420, 430 up to like 680, 700, even 720 in a lot of cases. So yes, our clients have done really well because Adelaide has gone through that growth cycle in the last 3 years. Now, will Adelaide continue to have the same cycle in the next 3 years? Not really, not as per the data. It will still have good growth, but not as pronounced growth as it had in the last 3 years. Now, the cash flow perspective, if you see, the cash flow has gone up from 530 per week rental income to 650 per week. But the overall rental yield has dropped from 6.2% down to 4.8% now, which makes it difficult for you to service the loan. So if you ask me, if your strategy is to have a balanced cash flow, then that is where Adelaide may not be the best case scenario for you. You may have to go to Queensland because you still have to pay the mortgage and all other outgoing expenses like property management fee, your insurances, your council rates. So again, your strategy will define which area you actually pick at what point of time, which will also be considering your cash flow, your family situation. It will also consider what kind of growth cycles you're looking for. And please, strategy does not mean buying something because your friend bought it or because your neighbor bought it or because your workmate told you that this is a good place and they heard it in the news. That is not strategy. So that was the first thing I wanted to talk about. Please have a strategy before you go into the market and buy something. Second important thing I want to talk about is chasing a perfect property. I see a lot of people having that mindset that they just want to buy that perfect property that takes their long lasting checklist. And that checklist just doesn't finish for some people, right? Now you need to understand what is really important and non-negotiable in a property versus something which is cosmetic, like buying in a street where there is a lot of traffic or on a main road. That is a no. I would never recommend you do that, right? But buying a property which requires a bit of a paint touch up, or I would like to give you an example where we bought a property for a client in Sydney, and it was a 3-bed 1-bath house, like 40 years old built, but in a very, very good condition in Southwest Sydney. And they still wanted a 4-bed 2-bath house, but their budget was not allowing for that in that suburb. So we went a little bit innovative with the strategy. We said, let's aim for a 3x1, But in that 3 by 1, we were actually looking at the layout. So the layout of that house had 2 living areas plus a big laundry with a toilet. So what that allowed us to do was that we converted one of the living areas into a bedroom by erecting 2 walls with it. So that was the 4th bedroom. Plus the laundry, because it already had a toilet, all we had to do was install a shower in there, and then we had a second toilet with a bath as well. So we converted a 3 by 1 into 4 by 2. The client probably spent 25, 30 grand at max to do the whole thing, but that helped them to buy that right property. Now, that is the kind of lens you need to be using when you're trying to buy that right asset, because there is no super perfect property anywhere. There will be something that will be missing. All you need to know is understand what are you really ready to compromise on, and what is something that you will never compromise on, because it can affect you in the longer run. So please don't try to chase perfect property. There is nothing like a perfect property. All you need is to make sure that it aligns with your requirements, right? Now, the third thing I want to talk about, first thing we talked about was having a right strategy. The second thing was more about chasing that perfect property, which does not really exist. The third thing is the charming brand new properties. Now, I have seen a lot of people who get attracted by these brand new assets, and they think they are the best things to buy. A lot of time these brand new properties are in the middle of nowhere, because the government wants to establish new houses far away where the land is still cheap. So you may end up buying over there. If you're a first home buyer, I can understand. Sometimes the family wants to live in a brand new home. That is understandable. But from investing purposes, that's really the worst kind of investment someone can make in most cases, because essentially they are buying a piece of land in the middle of nowhere where the amenities have not reached there. They will be coming in the next few years. There are no schools. There are only potential roads over there, and they're buying something with future capital appreciation. It does grow in value. Don't take me wrong. The growth does happen because we have a land shortage or livable land shortage in Australia, but the growth rate is very, very slow. So that is where it's really important that you don't get attracted to those charming brand new properties, because guess what? What you are paying for is actually the developer's profit. And that reminds me of a story where I was having a chat with someone yesterday, and they told me that they are looking to buy a property in southwest of Sydney in an austral area, where a 300 square meter lot probably they can secure for around $640,000. Now, because it's a registered lot, they can buy it now and they can start building on it. But their aim was to invest in property, buy a block of land, hold it for 2 years, 3 years, and then sell it for appreciated value after 2, 3 years. Because that's how they thought that they can make money in real estate. Now, once they decided to buy a piece of land, which was not yet registered, because they had a small deposit, so they couldn't buy the registered lot right now, which was for around 630K. So they had to actually opt for a non-registered land, which means it is not yet registered. There's been no development done. It will register in 2026. Now, the same 300 square meter lot, which is not registered, is actually selling for 700K or more in the same suburb. The only difference between the two lots is one is registered and ready to build now, requires a larger deposit, and it's selling for 630, 640 grand. The other one is selling for 700 or 710 grand because it is not registered, and you can buy it for a smaller deposit. Now, the reason it is at a higher value, yes, you can buy it for a smaller deposit, but the biggest challenge with that is that you are filling the developer's pocket with that extra 80 grand. You are actually paying for the future anticipated capital growth, which has not yet happened, but the developer is still charging you that money and you are paying for it. So for me, that is not a good investing strategy. That growth is something that you should be enjoying as a property buyer, and you can enjoy that once you buy in established areas which have good schools, good amenities, and good connectivity overall. So please be careful when you buy those brand new properties. Other important thing is buying at the peak of the market. And how do you buy at the peak of the market? When you try and follow the news articles. When you see a flashing news article saying 30% growth in this suburb for the last 2 years, or Perth has grown by 40% in the last 2.5 years, go and invest in Perth, right? That is where you have to be really careful, because essentially what it means is that most of the areas have already grown by 40, 50, in some cases even 60%. And if you end up buying somewhere in Perth now, which in which case that particular suburb has already grown by 50-60%, the chances are that you are pretty much buying at the peak of the market, and you are actually paying the price, and you're paying the gains for someone else. So you're paying the cost for someone else's value growth, and you're making it work for them, not for yourself. Because the likelihood is, if something has grown for 50% in the last 3 years, it potentially will not grow for 50% in the next 3 years, because that is the simple law of averages. And property markets are not linear, they always work in a non-linear pattern. So please, if you see a news article flashing that this area has grown by 30, 40, 50%, these are the areas you have to stay away from. If you buy over there at the peak of the market, then please don't complain that for the next 4 or 5 years you are not seeing any capital appreciation, because you are investing in property or buying real estate for capital growth. Simple as that, right? You're not there to just get rental income. So you can get the same amount of income through putting your money in the bank and gain interest on that. But your real purpose for getting into property is capital growth, so that your money grows and multiplies faster. And if that's not happening, it's not the right way for investing, from in my view. So we are very, very close, right? We first discussed about having the right strategy. Thanks you guys for all of you who are joining. And if you have any questions, please post them in the comments. I will answer them now. Or if you watch the recording later on, please leave your questions in the comment section. So the 4 mistakes we have discussed up until now as property buyers is: number 1, not having any strategy; number 2, trying to chase that perfect property; falling for those brand new properties, that was the third one; and then buying at the peak of the market, where you essentially pay for someone else's profits. And last but not the least, where we will finish our session today, is analysis paralysis. And what I mean by that is information overload. You can get any kind of information, all kinds of information online these days, right? A lot of people I speak to, they fall in the trap of trying to gain a lot of information around property market, up to a point where they just can't make any decision, because they don't know how to filter that information out. There's a lot of information about properties, property markets, property cycles, what are the growth areas, hot suburbs, blah blah blah. You can find all that information online, but which information is really true and which information is really relevant for you, that is the key. A lot of people don't understand that difference. And I would like to quickly share one example with you, where I was speaking to a guy a couple of weeks ago. He is an IT manager and his wife is a nurse. Now they're a very busy couple. They have 2 kids. Both the kids, one goes to basketball, the other kid goes to cricket, and they have very busy routines. And it was very hard to find a time to have both husband and wife together for a chat that they wanted to have with us. Finally, we found that time, and then they said, "Oh, I think we should be doing and buying this next investment ourselves." And I asked them why. They said, "Well, everything is available online, so we will just go and consume it and learn the process." And I said, "Okay, if you learn the process, and let's say you buy something which does not grow in value, you're probably making a $700,000 decision, which can actually go wrong, which can potentially cost you hundreds and thousands of dollars because of no growth, or your value can even go backward. Are you ready for that?" And they said, "Yes, we are ready for that, because we want to learn the process." Now, it's a bit funny for me, and I left it for them. I said, "Okay, you can do that on your own," because for me, if someone is an IT expert and can do the IT stuff on their own, or if someone is a medical expert and they're a GP or a nurse or whoever, I will not actually try to become an IT expert myself and try to fix my own network, because that is not my expertise. So property buying is an expert area. It is becoming more and more expert, and it is becoming more and more niche with time in Australia. So if you want to learn that, by all means go and learn it. But if you don't have time, if your kids are busy with sports and you just don't have even time to consume the information, then you're just missing out on opportunities, and you're leaving yourself behind thinking that you are doing the right thing. So if you want to gain information, go ahead for it, but please don't waste time doing that. Anyone can go and buy a property themselves, but to buy the property that grows in value, that helps you buy the next property faster, that's the key thing. And also, it should not give you any headaches at night, right? So very, very quickly, I just wanted to share this deal of the week as well. So 5 things we discussed today: never buy anything without any strategy. Number 2 was make sure that you are not chasing that perfect property, because it does not exist. Please don't fall for brand new properties, because you are paying for someone else's profits. Buying at the peak of the market essentially means you are losing out on a lot of opportunity over there. You are losing out on a lot of wealth creation options, and please don't fall into paralysis mode, and don't go into information overload, because once you do that, you don't end up taking any action. I've seen many people do that, and they just keep missing out on a lot of options out there. And so these were the 5 things I want to talk about. So this is the deal of the week. I just quickly want to talk about, and the deal of the week is for an owner occupied client. So these are the clients for whom we have helped buy an investment property before. They've been based in Melbourne. The investment property we bought for them was in Perth a couple of years ago. They are rent vesting, which means they want to rent where they are living right now. They just rent over there. They don't buy. Instead, they buy in locations where they can get good appreciation and good rental income, so that they don't have to worry about living in a place because they just own a home over there. So that's their strategy. And now they said that we want to settle down in Brizzy. So in Brisbane, we helped them buy a house in Moreton Bay Council, a really nice house, as you can see. It's a 4-bed, 2-bath house. And they were traveling, so they couldn't attend any open homes. And they were not even needed to attend any open homes, because that's what our team was doing on their behalf. We sourced the deal, negotiated on the price. The comparable properties are for selling 750 plus in that area, and we secured this one for $738,000 without the client needing to spend any time on ground or even worrying about how to find the right property for their family. So this ticks all their boxes. They are happy. They are actually moving in there just before Christmas, and they are super pumped because of that. So this was the deal of the week, guys. And if you have any questions, if you want to discuss your personal situation, whether you're looking to buy your family home, or you're looking to buy an investment asset, or you want to grow your property portfolio faster without having to risk your current lifestyle, without burning your bank account, feel free to book in a call with myself. It's totally obligation free. The QR code is right in front of you, and I would love to see you on the call. Until then, let me know what your thoughts are, what your feedback is for today. Subscribe to our channel and let us know what other topics you want us to talk about in the following weeks, and I'll bring those topics for you, because these sessions are only designed to help you out. Book in a call, guys, and keep safe, and I will see you next week. Thank you.